This is a Disaster Central special report. My name is David Vela here, joined in Houston, Texas, covering Tropical Storm Debby, an epic flood threat according to the National Weather Service. This is, of course, Disaster Central with live coverage continuing. We'll be going live for 2 hours. Just give you a quick update on how things are looking like. So, without further ado, let's begin. So, on your left bar, or on your right, you can see all the statistics you need to know. 65 miles per hour, tropical storm. Winds or pressure of 992 millibars. Currently moving towards the north-northwest at 13 miles per hour, and it is currently positioned 150 miles from Tampa, Florida. However, this does not mean that this is not posing a threat right now as we speak, as right now we are beginning to see, potentially could be seeing, the beginnings of uh, an event in which we haven't seen in quite a while. Rapid intensification is not out of the question. Rapid intensification seems more likely now than it did a few days ago. Uh, Obviously, let's talk about satellite presentation really quick. Let me just pull up my pen. Not what I wanted. So, and let me just really quickly just pause this. Just really quickly pause this. Let's see what the screen picks up. Okay, so looking at the satellite presentation, you can really see a very good uh, spin around it, right? And you have a really massive area of influence because this is also by the storm. This is also part of the storm. So, uh, really, this area, this storm has a huge, huge, huge area. And we're beginning to see that because some of these places are beginning to get tropical storm force winds and already beginning to see some tornado warnings out. There was a few tornado warnings out this morning, and as you can continue to see, this storm is on the verge of rapidly intensifying. And if it's not already doing so, uh, because this is looking very, very certain that this storm will begin to rapidly intensify. Now, when? I can't really tell you, but it's looking like it could be happening very soon. So, this is going to be pretty much moving off. The next problem with this storm will be the flooding. As soon as this goes over, this will be stalling around here for a good 2 days, right? This is going to bring huge amounts of rain and potentially epic flooding. Uh, I've already seen some totals of 20 to 25 inches, so 2 feet of rain could be seen, especially in South Carolina and the Georgia border. 20 to 25 inches of rain, no joke. And as this continues to move on, uh, it really only has two scenarios in which, okay, it really has two scenarios. Either it takes this, or it stalls out and does this, in which this puts this entire area under a big flooding threat as well. So going over, let's see. Let me just put you on with let me show you the. Let me show you our outlook. Here it is. You can see this is our tropical outlook. Just ignore the hail, torrent, wind. This storm, if we just include for hail, if we just exclude hail, you can see that the tornado threat is around a 60%. This storm very well likely will see uh, tornadoes, and the wind threat is at a 60% just in general. In terms of active storms, the North Atlantic obviously has Debby with 65 miles per hour and a sustained pressure of 992 millibars. In the Eastern Pacific, Carlota with 65 miles per hour and Daniel with 40 miles per hour. And a new storm just formed out. I just couldn't get the graphic done. Uh, New storm just got uh, Tropical Depression 5L formed. So going over, as we await this, let me show you a little bit more of what this storm is looking like. So in the North Atlantic, 65, this is Tropical Storm Debby with winds of 65 miles per hour and a sustained pressure of 992 millibars, currently positioned 27 degrees north and 84.3 degrees west. Tropical storm watches exist from exist in 7 miles from 7 miles bridge to Channel 5 bridge in Florida and from Indian Pass to Mexico Beach. Tropical storm warnings now in effect from the Florida Keys west of the 7 Mile Duke or 7 Mile Bridge, including Dry Tortugas. A hurricane watch exists from the Florida coast west of uh, Okoloni River to Indian Pass, and then hurricane warnings as well for the Florida coast south of the Suwannee River towards Yankeetown. My apologies. Hurricane warnings now in effect from Florida coast from Suwannee River to Okoloni River. So that is there. Let's go over some of the cities that could be at risk once this thing begins to load up. There it is. So the hardest hit cities so far, I'm going to show you six, but the hardest hit cities, four or five actually. These are the highest risk cities for today, tomorrow, and Tuesday. Tallahassee, Florida. Uh, Debby is forecasted to become a hurricane before or at landfall. A massive flood risk persists as a result of the stalling that has been forecasted by multiple models. But again, the thing with this is things have changed a little bit. Also, Tallahassee, you'll be on the western side, so you won't be getting the tornado threat. You won't be getting a lot of the flood threat. You'll get the winds, um, which could be tropical storm to weak tropical storm to moderate tropical storm. So power outages also remain a big deal. So that's that. In terms of Jacksonville, Florida, a potentially historic flooding event uh, is possible for this area. However, the main risk as well includes tornadoes because you will be on that eastern side. And with that eastern side, especially that northeastern quadrant, which you will be in during landfall and a few hours after landfall, that tornado threat is very persistent, which is why we have you at a 60% chance for a tornado threat. We also have you at an 80% chance of getting damaging winds because you are already beginning to see tropical force winds, and that wind gust begins to expand. So that wind field is expanding as we speak. The flooding threat, anywhere from 5 to 8 inches, that can be enough for something to flood. So as a result, we have you at around 90% chance. Savannah, Georgia, epic flooding is very possible, and when you are told to evacuate, please evacuate. Preparations should be completed for Savannah, for Georgia, and South Carolina, and North Carolina by tonight. Or not by tonight, by tomorrow morning. Because of this flooding, Savannah, Georgia, you could be getting anywhere from a foot to half a foot worth of rain. That is very, very, very likely going to cause flooding issues. As a result, we have you at a 95% chance of flooding. In terms of the tornado risk, you won't be getting much because as soon as that storm moves out of the Florida Peninsula, it'll be in the water. So you will be on the western side. The problem with that western side again is that there's be a huge convergence band that will cause a lot of rain. So that tornado risk is not there. The damaging wind gusts could be there. This storm is expected to make landfall in around South Carolina. You'll be getting the western side of it. So that means that you won't necessarily be getting a lot of the tornado threat, but you will be getting a lot of the rain and the hail. So we have you at a 45% chance of the wind because we're not necessarily sure where this is going to make landfall and because we're not necessarily sure how strong it will be at landfall. But you are under tropical storm watches. So just might as well just take care of it now. And let me just move on a little bit and you'll see it transition a little bit more. And whenever it will. I think this slide is like 11 seconds. So there it is. Charleston, South Carolina. A big threat here. Potentially, again, same key messages for both. Potentially historic flooding uh, is very likely for portions of this area. Epic flooding is possible for both areas. So we have you right now in terms of flooding over 95% because you will be getting that dirty side, and because we are confident that when this storm does get out, it will be a massive storm. It'll be bigger than what it currently is now. So just remember, uh, big big thing about this is you Charleston especially, you could be getting 20 to 25 inches, potentially up to 30 inches of rain. So this is going to cause undoubtedly huge flooding problems. We have you over a 95% chance, uh, and that's again very explainable. The tornado threat, I don't think we'll see much of a tornado threat in this area, especially because uh, in some models you do have some of that cape or some of that instability, some of that stability, or known as cap, in the atmosphere. In terms of the winds, we have you at a higher risk because you're on the eastern side, which means you will be getting the wind, rain, and tornado threat. However, the tornado threat doesn't persist for that long, especially in Charleston. For Charlotte, North Carolina, again, historic flooding. We have you over a 95% chance of getting flooding. I know it says hail, but just ignore that. Uh, we have you at a very, very, very likely, very certain that you will get some sort of flooding event that happens there as well. The tornado threat, we have you at around 5%. Could be lower, could be higher. Just add 2% between both. And the reason why we have you at around 5% is because as soon as the storm begins to move off, you'll begin to have a convergence bound, which causes the cap to break off, and that will lead to explosive development of thunderstorms. And we have you at a 70% chance of winds because the storm, by the time it moves out, you will be getting the eastern side, which means that you likely will get a lot of that wind. How much wind? I can't tell you. But what I can tell you is that in terms of the overall problem, you guys, Charleston and Charlotte, will get the worst of this storm in terms of the flooding. And that's not just me guessing, that's a very certain likelihood that we will get it. So just keep that in mind. So just ignore that for now. So that's all the slides I have for you. Going back to this, again, and this is what I mean. This area is very, very likely going to see flooding here. So what we mean by that is uh, when you go to, when you see this, right, and it moves out. So here, so the problem with this cone as well is uh, it has it going like this. I don't think it'll go like this. I think we're going to see something like this, where it's a bit of a minor change, or I see this beginning to go a little bit more towards the east, which puts more people in danger. So what this will do, and what this will entail and cause, is this will cause a more of a chain reaction in which um, sorry, just checking really quick stuff. Uh, you'll really get more of a chain reaction, and pretty much what that means is, uh, you'll get more of a. What is this? Oh, okay. You'll get more of a chain reaction, in which pretty much means that, uh, what this will do is a lot of this area, the southern area, will be exposed. And what that means is that this puts a big area here under flood threat, but not just the flood threat, storm surge threat as well. After this, I think this is going to be making landfall around around the central, well, a little bit more of the northern extent of South Carolina. But this also puts this entire area at a huge flood risk. Again, 20 to 25 inches of rain is nothing to be joking about. So just keep that in mind. That's one huge problem with this storm. Now, if we go towards the NHC and show you their rainfall products, can y'all see it? Yeah, you can. So I want you to pay very good attention, very close attention to how this storm will, this rainfall total, because again, this is nothing to be joking about. Here, just here in general, big rainfall threat, big rainfall threat. 20 to 30 inches of rain actually uh, could be possible in this area, and that is no joke. That is one of the scariest things I've seen, especially for a very populated center. Uh, so the NHC has it more derived towards the southern extent, which I completely disagree with. Uh, and although they are the experts, so I could be wrong. We were just relying on model consensus. But this is some of the older graphics. Charleston, Savannah, huge flooding threat. According to the rainfall or uh, weather prediction center, big time rain threat. And what this will do, and I mean, this is a huge rainfall threat for all of this area. Uh, Portions up here that I didn't make forecasts or not key messages for. This is also a big area. Jacksonville, as I said, 8 to 12. So, hey, you've been up to more. This I made this last night. So you've been up more significantly. 8 inches to a foot of rain could be possible in this area, in these areas. And just that's the general picture. Tampa Bay could be seeing that too. That's just the general picture for this entire area. A huge rainfall threat, huge rain, a lot of rain. In terms of the storm surge, uh, let me do this. In terms of how the storm surge will look like, well, you got your answer. So pretty much the gray is uh, a wetland, so like storm surge is almost guaranteed. But as we get towards here, like for example, more of the popular regions like Manatee Road, Chiefland, that storm surge is very possible. You'll have storm surge just a few miles off of where you're at right now. If we go towards, and let me see if I can zoom in. No, I can't zoom in. If we go towards, let's see, general rule of thumb. If we go towards places like here, uh, what is this? Sorosa, the Ballpoint Park, wherever you're at here, uh, big time flood threat. You can see storm surge of up to 9 feet. So that's that's another big problem. And you can see it here. I mean, 6 to 10 feet of storm surge from Suwannee River towards Okoloni River, which again says a lot. It really does. It really says a lot about how big of a threat the storm really is. So just bear that in mind next time, or when you do decide, if you do decide to go out, which I highly am against. But the storm surge threat doesn't just end there. Georgia, South Carolina, you also have a storm surge threat, 2 to 4 feet, and not as much as what you could see here. But this is also, by the way, the exact same area in which Idalia hit last year, and that was a Category 4. So some of the key messages according to the NHC, and let me just read you some of these. One, heavy rainfall will likely result in considerable flooding impacts from Florida Big Bend region throughout southeastern Georgia and the coastal plains of the Carolinas through Friday. Potentially historic, there it is, historic heavy rainfall across southeast Georgia and South Carolina through Friday morning may result in catastrophic flooding. Significant river flooding is also expected. And again, this is that again that they're emphasizing that tropical not tropical storm. They're emphasizing that sorry about that. They're emphasizing that flooding threat, historic uh, rainfall. So they're emphasizing the rain. They're emphasizing the flooding. Then the next thing, there's a danger of a life-threatening storm surge along portions of the Gulf Coast of Florida with 6 to 10 feet of inundation above ground level is expected somewhere between the Okoloni River and the Suwannee River on Monday. Residents in storm surge warnings areas should follow any advice given by local officials, which a lot of them have already been under mandatory evacuations. Number three, hurricane conditions are expected to begin on Monday, along with portions uh, of the Florida Big Bend region where a hurricane warning is in effect, with tropical storm conditions beginning this evening. Tropical storm conditions are expected through Monday farther south, with the tropical storm warnings along the Florida's west coast, including the Tampa Bay region. And lastly, impacts from storm surge and strong winds are possible along the southeast coast of Georgia to North Carolina throughout the middle of the week. And storm surge watches and tropical storm watches have been issued for portions of these areas. Additional watches and warnings may be likely. So again, they've emphasized two things. One, the storm surge, again, life-threatening storm surge of 6 to 10 feet. So think of it like so think of storm surge like these massive tsunami waves. If you're getting 6 to 10 feet, it only really takes a foot of fast-moving waves to knock your feet off the ground. So just bear that in mind. 6 to 10 feet that will cause catastrophic flooding wherever you're at. And they emphasize the heavy rainfall threat. Again, 20 to 30 inches is not anything to be playing. This is not one of these small numbers. This is one of the scariest rainfall products I've seen since Sally. And Sally I think had like 15 to 20 inches. So this is already surpassing that. The only one I can really go back to was probably Hurricane Lane in 2018, and that caused like 50 inches of rain. And they actually had called it a little bit less. They called for 40. So again, wherever you're at, if you are in Charleston, if you are in Charlotte, if you are in Augusta, if you are in Charleston, if you're in Savannah, Georgia, please get out of there. Evacuate. Flooding will be a huge, huge, huge problem, especially there. If you choose to stay, you are pretty much threatening your life. You're threatening your own life. So just keep that in mind if you do decide to stay. Uh, rescue rescue workers may not be there to help you in situations like that. So just keep that in mind. Florida, again, big threat in terms of wind, storm surge, and rain. Not as big of a threat as it is for uh sorry, um not as big of a threat as it is for Georgia and South Carolina, but it is still a huge threat. I think a foot to about half of 2 feet expected. So just keep that in mind. A foot of rain already being forecasted, 2 feet of rain already being forecasted, should already say enough, and you should get the hell out of there, especially if you're in that 20 to 30 inch range. Just get out. Uh, don't endanger your own life like that, especially because we've already seen a lot of flood-related deaths in the last few years. Remember, 9 out of 10 storm deaths are water-related, so just keep that in mind. So I'm going to be taking your questions, comments, concerns, uh, uh, because this storm, by the way, we'll be going live later today, hopefully, if the computer doesn't kill me. Hopefully we will, but I'll be answering your questions, comments, or concerns. Don't be afraid to answer them. Again, a lot of the information you need to know is on your left bar, where the information is at the 65 mph icon. Let me just play with satellite imagery. There it is. And you can see again, look at that satellite imagery. Just insane how good this satellite imagery is looking like. This storm could potentially be rapidly intensifying, and that's another problem. Uh, Debbie is a very, very strong, could become a very strong hurricane, potentially major hurricane, if this intensification continues. Again, this storm will begin to slow down tonight. Landfall isn't expected for another 12 to 15 hours, uh, 12 to 18 hours, sorry. And then after that, tornado outbreak is possible. And a historic flooding is very likely with this. So we're going to continue to be live here, folks. Uh, because that's what we do. And hopefully I'll be able to get a team with this as well. So just bear that in mind. So yeah, keep asking your questions, comments, concerns, or put those questions, comments, concerns in the chat, and I'll answer them. And of course, and let me just put a little bit of background music so the silence isn't that dead. Um, loud. But all right. So yeah, just let us know. Let me know how your questions, comments, concerns in the chat. Of course, we'll continue to talk about this storm as it progresses. Right now, we're in blue mode, probably because landfall is not expected for another while. But let me show you how our red mode is looking like right now. And then let me just get rid of this. So this is the mode we're going to be going with tomorrow. This is the mode we're going to be going with tonight, and it looks pretty neat, doesn't it? So, just let me know what you think about this setup. Pretty new as well. So this is a dark mode setup, and we're gonna continue it like this for a while. So just let me know how you like about the setup, and if you have anything else to talk about, just let me know in the chat. And it could be really anything. But going back with this, it can be any question. And by the way, I do want to say that we will continue live coverage on this soon, so stand by.